The weight of absence. The baby monitor crackled to life at 2:17 a.m., but the crib was empty. Daniel's eyes snapped open. His body was already moving before his mind caught up, feet hitting the cold hardwood floor, heart slamming against his ribs. He hadn't turned on the monitor in weeks, not since they took Lily away. The social worker said it was temporary. That was 43 days ago. The crib had been stripped bare, tucked into the corner like a guilty secret, yet the monitor on his nightstand glowed faint green, its tiny speaker hissing static, then a soft, rhythmic shush-shush like fabric brushing against wood. He grabbed it. The volume was off. Had been for weeks, but the red-on light blinked steadily. Down the hall. The nursery door, always left ajar, was closed. Daniel stood in the hallway, barefoot, wearing yesterday's sweatpants and a t-shirt stiff with dried coffee. The air smelled faintly of baby powder and something else, damp cotton, maybe, or old milk. He hadn't cleaned the room. Couldn't bring himself to. Every sock, every stuffed rabbit, every pastel onesie remained exactly where Lily had last touched them. He reached for the doorknob. It turned easily. Too easily. The room was darker than the rest of the house, not just shadow-consumed. The streetlight outside didn't reach this far. He fumbled for the wall switch. Click. Nothing. Bulb must have burned out. He raised the monitor like a talisman. Its dim display cast a sickly green puddle on the floorboards. In its light, the crib stood centered in the room. Sheets neatly tucked. Impossible. He'd left it stripped. A soft creak came from inside. Not the springs. Not the wood. A breath. Daniel's throat tightened. Lily. Silence. Then a whisper, so faint it might have been the house settling. Daddy. Cold. His knees nearly buckled. That voice, that exact lilt. She always said Dottie, dragging the second syllable like a sigh. He stepped forward. The floor groaned. The monitor's static surged, then cleared. Inside the crib, nestled in the blankets, was a shape, small, curled on its side. He reached in, his hands closed around nothing, just air, and cold, so cold, it burned his skin. He jerked back, gasping. The blankets were smooth, undisturbed, but the scent of her, shampoo, coconut, and chamomile filled his nose. He backed out of the room, heart roaring, closed the door, locked it, leaned against it, trembling. It was grief. It had to be. The sleepless nights. The guilt. The way he'd yelled at her the morning before the accident. Just stop crying for 5 minutes. And how she'd gone quiet, eyes wide, before the seizure took her. They said it wasn't his fault. Said it was the undiagnosed condition. But he knew. He'd wished, just for a second, for silence, and the universe had listened. Now it was giving her back wrong. He walked to the kitchen, poured water he didn't drink, stared at the sink. The faucet dripped. Once, twice, then stopped. He hadn't turned it on. On the counter, the baby bottle he'd washed weeks ago stood upright, dry, clean. Now it was filled with cloudy liquid, condensation beating on the glass. He didn't touch it. Back in the bedroom, he unplugged the monitor, wrapped it in a towel, stuffed it in the closet, sat on the edge of the bed, hands between his knees, breathing slowly. Silence, then a thump from the nursery, not loud, just deliberate, like a small foot kicking the crib rail. He stayed still, counted breaths. 1, 2, 10. Another thump, closer to the door this time. His skin prickled. Sweat chilled his neck. He wanted to run, but where? The whole house felt like a throat closing around him. He stood, walked to the hall, pressed his ear to the nursery door. Silence, then a giggle. High, bright, Lily's laugh, but underneath it, something wet, guttural, like lungs full of fluid. Daniel's vision blurred. He slid down the door, back against the wood, knees to his chest. "Go away," he whispered. "Please, I don't deserve you." The doorknob turned, slowly, smoothly. From the inside, he scrambled back, crab walking down the hall. Locked himself in the bathroom. Turned on the shower cold, full blast to drown out sound. Sat on the tile floor, arms over his head. But over the rush of water, he heard it tap, tap, tap on the bathroom door. Small fists. Patient. Daddy open. The voice said, clearer now. To clear. Lily wet. He squeezed his eyes shut. You're not her. Silence. Then the shower curtain rustled. He hadn't touched it. He looked up. The curtain was drawn shut. But on the other side through the translucent plastica, small silhouette stood. Bare feet, round head, one hand pressed flat against the fabric. Steam fogged the mirror behind him. Words formed in the condensation, written by no hand he could see. You left me in the DAR, Daniel screamed. Yanked open the curtain. Nothing, only the empty tub. Water pooling at the drain. He turned off the shower. The house fell into a silence so deep it hummed. He opened the bathroom door. The hallway stretched longer than before. The nursery door stood open, inside. The crib was gone. In its place sat a rocking chair, old wooden, one he'd never owned. It rocked gently, back and forth, on the seat. A soaked onesie, steaming faintly in the cold air. Daniel approached, numb, picked it up. It weighed nothing, yet his arm trembled under its weight. He looked down. His own feet were wet, dripping onto the floorboards, but he hadn't stepped in water. The rocking chair creaked. He turned. A child stood in the doorway, barefoot, hair plastered to her forehead, skin blue-tinged at the lips. Her eyes were wide, black, depthless. Daddy, she said, voice echoing as if from underwater. Carry me. He reached for her. His hands passed through her shoulders like smoke. She smiled, then dissolved into mist that smelled of river, mud, and rain. Daniel collapsed to his knees. The onesie slipped from his fingers. It landed dry. He crawled to the crib's old spot, pressed his forehead to the floor, wept silently. Minutes passed, or hours. Time had no shape. Then the baby monitor crackled again. He hadn't brought it. It was in the closet, yet the sound came from everywhere. Static, a sigh. Then, clear as glass. Daddy, stay. He lifted his head. The nursery door was closed again, but this time, from the other side, he heard rocking. Creak, creak, creak. Slow, steady. Eternal. He stood, walked to the door, placed his palm flat against the wood. Cold seeped into his bones. He didn't open it. He leaned his forehead against the doorframe and whispered, I'm here. The rocking didn't stop. Outside. The night held its breath, and in the hollow dark, something waited, not for rescue, not for love, but for him to cross the threshold.